back at it again for another episode of Miners Live. I am your host, Chris Dunn, head coach, general manager, CEO, president, vice president, chairman of the board, whatever you want to call it, president of football operations of the Sacramento Miners. I will say right off the jump, this is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter show tonight. I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather. As many of you know, last week we did not go live because I was out of town traveling. Also had to tend to some RFL duties to make sure that the team and the file and the roster were all set for the upcoming season. And having been on 5 different airplanes over the course of, I believe it was 4 days. Over the course of 4, maybe 5 days, I was on 5 different airplanes. So as you can imagine, those of you that have traveled quite a bit, it's not uncommon to get a little bit under the weather. My throat is still bothering me a little bit. Theraflu, I thank you. This show is going to be sponsored by Theraflu. They have helped me a lot over the last couple of days. You guys have helped. I haven't been as active as I had been in weeks past, so I do apologize for that. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. Anthony Fry, I see you out there already. I really need to adjust this. I know I mentioned I was going to do this last week, and I completely forgot. So I'm going to try to do that just right now because I don't feel good, and I don't care. So Anthony Fry, I see you. What's going on, buddy? Rapid Fire Gaming, as always. I don't know if you're crying because you think I'm sick. I don't know if you're crying because you think the show sucks. I don't know if you're crying because I don't actually know who you are. Are you a player in the RFL? Are you a player in the college series? I would actually like to know because I am appreciative of your support. I think Rapid Fire Gaming has been one of the first subscribers to the YouTube channel. So yes, if you aren't already following the show on YouTube, you can certainly do so by searching Sacramento Miners or my name, Chris Dunn, right on YouTube. Also follow the Twitter, follow the team's Twitter page at MinersRFL and Instagram at MinersRFL. So again, thanks all for the support. What's Rapid Fire Gaming now? Crying because we lost, and no, not a player. Okay, so Rapid Fire Gaming is a big fan of, I guess, spoiler alert, South Carolina, hence the logo, hence we know that they lost to the North Carolina Tar Heels this past weekend. Big win for North Carolina. If you are a fan of the show and you've been listening to the show for the last month and a half now, you know that I've been very skeptical of North Carolina. I've been very skeptical of Miles Mccain. I just don't see. I thought that he was a Heisman hopeful coming into the season. I thought Miles Mccain could win the Heisman Trophy. If you follow Mitch and Coach Baker, you saw in the preseason, they did their top 10 players by position. What you also would have seen was that North Carolina has 10 guys. I'm sorry, North Carolina had 3 guys in the top 10 in the country. Not in the ACC, in the country. They had 3 wide receivers in the top 10 in the entire country. And with that kind of offensive talent, Miles Mccain is still not getting to the point where we can say that he's a Heisman candidate, or we can even say he's worthy of the hype that we bestowed upon him prior to the season. And maybe I'm using the term we a little bit loosely. Maybe it's not we. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's not Deshaun Evans. Right? Maybe it's not Deshaun Evans who was bestowing the hype on Miles Mccain prior to the season. Maybe it's not Alvin Mack bestowing the hype onto Miles Mccain prior to the season. It was me. I will sit here and I will take it. I was high on Miles Mccain. I said it, I think on the very first episode of the show, I believe it was right after week 1 or right before week 1 that I think Miles McCain could very easily win the Heisman. I'm here to tell you right now, 7 episodes into Miners Live, Miles McCain will not win the Heisman. He has a 2% chance to win the Heisman. That's it. And in order for him to do that, he's probably going to have to go bonkers over the rest of the season. It's not going to happen. And so here I sit, right? A month and a half into this show and a month and a half into the season, and I tell you, I was wrong. Miles McCain doesn't have what it takes to win the Heisman Trophy. Sure, he had enough to get by South Carolina. And yes, North Carolina, for some crazy reason, is probably going to end up the number 2 team in the country, number 1 team in the country. I don't think they're going to end up number 1 in the country. USC didn't lose. And they took care of a Florida State team that I'm pretty high on. And so there's just no way that USC is going to fall. USC is going to fall. UNC was number 3, according to the league top 25. North Carolina was number 3, right? I believe I had that right in front of me. Yeah, North Carolina was 3, South Carolina was 2. So this was a matchup of number 2 versus number 3. And as long as number 1 didn't lose, this was basically a matchup for the number 2 team in the country. And maybe if USC had fought in a barn burner, if Florida State had taken USC to overtime, if Florida State had kept it close, maybe, just maybe, USC could fall to number 2 and the winner of this game could jump them to number 1. But I don't see that happening the way that USC was able to take care of Florida State. And I just don't see South Carolina having lost for North Carolina to be the team to jump to number 1. It's just not going to happen. So I'm here to tell you right now that there's almost no way that tomorrow when the league reveals the top 25, I cannot fathom a scenario where number 1 isn't USC and number 2 isn't North Carolina. Now, that being said, I will also tell you North Carolina is not the second best team in the country, guys. They're not even the 3rd best team in the country. I just, there's a lot of hype surrounding North Carolina because of this win. But let's not kid ourselves. South Carolina may have been the least deserving of a number 2 rank of any college series team that we've seen in the last couple of years. If you sit there and you watch the games, you'll realize North Carolina is not it. North Carolina Tar Heels are not the number 2 team in the country. As a matter of fact, later on in the show, I'm going to give you my top 10. And I don't care about what their record is overall versus in conference, and if their conference record is below this team, then they can't be above that team in the standings. That's for the league top 25, and that's the way that the playoff scenarios might play out. But until we get to the end of the season, I don't care about any of that. I'm going to tell you who I think the top 10 teams are in the country. And I'm telling you right now, when we get there, you'll be surprised at where I have North Carolina, because it's not number 1 and it's not number 2. And you can try to figure out who 3 through 10 might be. I'll tease that now and we'll get there in a little bit. But it's not North Carolina at 1 and it's not North Carolina at 2. And I'm not afraid to admit that I was wrong. I thought this was a team that could run away with the ACC. Sorry, Miami, I was wrong. I thought this was a team that could easily contend for the national championship. And I just don't see it. I don't care where they are right now. And sure, there's a scenario where maybe because the ACC is not that strong, it's not as strong as the SEC. There's a scenario where, and we can take a quick look, right? So let's go ahead and do that. We could envision a scenario where North Carolina, let's see, they've got Florida State at home. Then they've got Miami at home. They go on the road to Clemson. There's a real chance that North Carolina doesn't lose the next 3 weeks heading into the bye. And then coming out of the bye, there's a really good chance that there's a really good chance looking at this, right? Okay, so they beat Baylor, they lost to Georgia, and then what? They beat Louisville, they beat Penn State, they beat South Carolina. So we're looking at a 4-1 North Carolina team. And I'm going to be honest, the way that the schedule works for North Carolina right now, I could realistically envision a scenario where they only lose one more game. I think they'll probably lose 2. But even if they lose 2 games, a 3-loss ACC team, that's probably going to get them into the ACC championship. And then if they win the ACC championship game, it doesn't matter. They're probably in anyway. And quite honestly, if they have 4 losses, if they somehow got 4 losses, that might still get them into the ACC championship game, given who those wins are against versus who the losses are against, right? So if UNC beats Florida State, they beat Miami, they beat Clemson, but then they beat Tennessee, they somehow lose to Iowa, lose to TCU. We're talking about a 3-loss UNC team. Who knows what might happen with Notre Dame over that period of time? And let's just assume that Miami plays well and they end up running the table. We're looking at a scenario where it's probably Miami versus UNC in the ACC championship. And if we've got Miami versus UNC in the ACC championship, Miami could have 2 losses. UNC could possibly have 4. There's a scenario where UNC could have 4 losses. Let's say UNC beats Florida State, loses to Miami, right? So they lose to Miami. That gives them their 2nd loss. But then they beat Clemson. They beat Tennessee. They lose to Iowa. That gives them their 3rd loss. They beat Notre Dame. They lose to TCU. That gives them their 4th loss. They've now got 4 losses, but they won the head-to-head matchup against Notre Dame. They won the head-to-head matchup against Clemson. They won the head-to-head matchup against Florida State. And they've already won the head-to-head matchup against Louisville. Let's give them the loss to Miami. Miami runs away with the number 1 seed in the ACC. That gives UNC the 2 seed in the ACC. I don't think that's like, I think everything that I just said is greater than 50% chance of likelihood. I think there's a chance that UNC loses 3 more games, but somehow is still able to be fighting for the college football playoff and the football Final Four. I like to just call it the football Final Four. I think there's a really good chance that that happens, given the schedule the rest of the way, right? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they lose 4 of their next 6 games and a 5-loss UNC team is just out. They're not going to get in. But with the way the schedule plays out, you could easily make a case that they have their own destiny in their own hands. And here's Alvin Mack. Look, I know we're 15 minutes into the show and talking about UNC. The reason why we're talking about UNC is because I wanted to come on this show and I want to say that I was wrong about UNC, which is weird to do today because tomorrow they're going to be the number 2 team in the country. But I'm here to tell you right now, they are, what was it? Joey Porter, I believe it was, years ago, referred to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as paper champions, right? The North Carolina Tar Heels are paper champions. The Baylor game right here, you see Alvin Mack. That block punt was so bogus because time was running out. No need to snap the ball. Still drives me crazy. You want to think about it. It should drive you crazy. It should drive everybody crazy. I don't care if you're a player on North Carolina. It should drive you crazy because we are so invested in this league. We are so invested in this game. We are so invested in this sport that for that play to happen, for that scenario to play out the way that it did, it should drive each and every one of you nuts. And it does, and you know it does, and you can't deny the fact that it does because the majority of you are probably on Twitter, on social media of some sort, ripping EA or Madden franchise or whatever when you see plays like that happen. We are all invested. And so when you see something like that, it should be frustrating. And yes, Baylor got screwed on that play. That being said, if you go back and you watch the majority of the game, I thought North Carolina played well enough to win. I thought North Carolina actually played better than Baylor. I think Baylor got a late score to take the lead for, I want to say, the first time. If memory serves, I don't think Baylor, I think Baylor was trailing like the whole game and took a late lead. Should have just punted the ball, should have just taken a knee, ran the clock out. They didn't because of the way the AI is set up, and that's unfortunate. What are we saying here? What is this? I think 2. Okay, no. Yeah, kicks, field goals. I'm pretty sure you have the best field goal kicker in the country, though. At Baylor, sorry. Who are we talking about? Who is Amir Williams talking about? They're not going to even be in the top 4. Amir Williams, clarify yourself, because if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, I'm about to do what I almost did to a certain running back today on the show and just put him on blast. If Amir Williams is talking about Miami not being number 2, I don't know what you're looking at. Like, how can you say that the number 3 team in the country beats the number 2 team in the country and doesn't move to number 2? Like, I don't care what player you're a team on. I don't care what school you went to, what school you go to, what school your mom, dad, uncle, cousin, brother, sister went to. I don't care if your ex-girlfriend cheated on you with a guy that went to the school that just beat you. You can't envision. Yeah, and here it is. And this is why you're just wrong. You're just wrong. You're wrong, and I'm going to say it right now. The front office is wrong if they don't do this. You can't take the number 3 team in the country, beat the number 2 team in the country, and not have them at number 2. It literally, like, just think about it. Stop. Think about it for like 6 seconds. It's like 3rd grade math here. If number 3 beats number 2, they get number 2. Is there anyone else? Are any of you guys in the chat here? Do any of you think that what I'm saying is wrong? Does that not make sense? Like, I understand Miami is a very good team. And again, I'm going to get into my top 10 a little bit later. And I will tell you, Miami's in my top 10. Okay? But you can't say that the number 3 team in the country beats the number 2 team in the country. Somebody says they're going by record and then conference record. Okay, fine. It's foolish when we've only played 3. Some teams haven't played conference games or have played 1 conference game. So what are we saying? Let's look at it. So we're going to say that Miami has to get number 2 because of conference. So Miami's conference record, what are we looking at? Miami's conference record is 2-0, right? Beat Notre Dame, beat Clemson. And UNC's conference record is 1-0. Like I get it. Fine. You know what? This is where myself and the natural flow of how the college series has to play out and how the league is created within the file in order to have standings like that. But in what world? Okay, Miami. And this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that I'm doing this right now because the majority of this show was going to be me talking about how much I don't like North Carolina and how much I underrated Miami and how good Miami is and how I think Miami's the best team in the ACC. That was supposed to be the premise of this show. And it's been completely taken away because a graduate of Miami, an alumni of Miami, who's now in the RFL, yet to take a snap in the RFL, who I was very high on, by the way, Amir, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to take you. But now I'm just going to take you to task. And I guess maybe I'm not necessarily taking you to task. Maybe I'm just taking the whole process of ranking to task. And I don't think I'm the only one that feels like it's a little bit kind of unfair or unorthodox a little bit, right? I would like to know who would have ever envisioned a scenario where who did Miami play? Clemson. Okay. Just because the number 4 team beat the number 25 team is going to mean that the number 4 team moves to number 2. Like this is what you're selling me. You're telling me that 4 beating 25 is better than 3 beating 2. And I'm telling you that's ridiculous. I think I just spent 45 seconds trying to explain how that doesn't make sense. And that's 45 seconds I'm not going to get back. That's 45 seconds of my life that I will no longer get back because, right, here it is. Think about real life. 3 beats 2, they're 2 now. What are we talking about? And the worst part about it, I'm right. Leo Moon is right. For those of you that feel this way, you're right. Unfortunately, due to the way that the schedule is made and the way that the committee has deemed they have to do the top 25, I guess Amir Williams has a point because Miami is now going to carry what? A 3-0 conference record? And UNC is going to have a 2-0? Or no, UNC will have a 1-0 conference record and Miami will have a 2-0 conference record. And because of that, that's going to put Miami at number 2. Look, Miami beat Clemson, who was the number 25 team in the country. UNC beat South Carolina, who was the number 2 team in the country. I'm done talking about how ridiculous it seems to put Miami at number 2. Throughout the course of the season, it's going to play out the way that it's going to play out. Let it play out based on overall record and where they were the week before, right? When you look at the rankings, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I wish that there were no rankings. I wish that we didn't do rankings until about week 4. And then at week 4, we finally put our initial rankings together. And then every week you just went off of the week before. I think that's probably what everybody would like. But again, it's not a perfect world. It's not a perfect system. Smitty and Rob and Bill have to go with what's presented to them within the file and within the context of the game. And that's understandable. We all have to understand that's the way that it's going to play out. But we don't have to like it. I don't have to like Miami being the number 2 team in the country tomorrow when it drops. And Amir, you know what? You're probably right. Having looked at it and actually gone through the schedule with you all just now, Smitty did say that. He did say it's going to be based on overall record, and then it's going to be conference record. Then what's the point of debating half of these what's the point of debating teams within their own conference if all you're going to do is just go strictly off of their conference record, right? Like, because from now until like week 8, a lot of these teams are going to have the same conference record. And I'm sorry, last I checked, but 2-0 is 100% win percentage. 1-0, 100% win percentage. So if that's the case, then what I would rather see is go based off overall record and then conference win percentage. Because why should North Carolina be punished for not having played that extra conference game yet? Right? And now what's going to happen what happens if they lose their next conference game? They lose their next conference game. That's a really tight game against Florida State. And now they just plummet. When they shouldn't plummet. They should have been higher to begin with. What did Chris Polk say? I missed it. So if the Miners was 4-1 and another was 5-1, who's leading? Yeah, but you're not, okay, this isn't apples. That's not apples to apples. We're talking about college versus pro. Like that's like a foolish question. If the Miners were 4-1 and the Dreadnoughts were 5-1, the Dreadnoughts are going to be ahead of them. But there's no subjective top 25 in the RFL. And if you watch the power rankings in the RFL last season, you many times saw teams that were 4-2 listed in the power rankings ahead of teams that were 5-1. Or at least you saw Bill and Rob and Smitty debating ad nauseum that the number 9 team in the power rankings of the RFL is significantly better than the number 4 team in the power rankings of the RFL. But the power rankings were put together based on that. I mean, if we're talking college, you can be 5-1, but if your 5 wins were against TCU, Arizona State, Washington, Florida, and LSU, who cares? I'm pretty sure that me, Lito Loso, Anthony Fry, and 8 of my buddies could go out and beat some of those teams. So yeah, we're 5-1. Congratulations, we're 5-1. We're the number 1 team in the country. Get out. No, it's not realistic. But tomorrow, that's probably what's going to be that's probably going to be what happens. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, again, this was supposed to be about how I don't think North Carolina is all that good. And I overrated them. And I am pumping the brakes and I am taking a step back. And it was supposed to be about I was lower on Miami. Miami didn't show me a lot early on to warrant the hype that they were being given. I was literally about to spend the majority of this show talking about how Miami is a better team than UNC. And instead, it turns into Miami players are wrong. I guess you're not wrong for thinking that you're going to be number 2 in the country when the polls come out tomorrow, but you are wrong for then thinking that number 2 in the country means a lick. Right? Because we all know that 3 beats 2, 3 goes to 2. 4 beats 25, golf clap. Okay? Golf clap. 4 beats 25 at home. If you didn't, what does that say? Right? So again, in a few weeks, UNC and Miami clears this up. You're 100% right. 100% right. 100%. No questions asked. That game determines certainly the front runner for the ACC. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think Miami wins that game in a blowout. I don't even think that game's close. I think Miami wins that, maybe not a blowout. I think Miami wins that game by double digits. They might not win by 14 or 20, but I think Miami wins that game by double digits. And I would be shocked if it wasn't double digits by halftime and maybe UNC gets some garbage points late in the game. Like, I don't think that game's going to be close. Looking at what Miami's defense is capable of, I don't know what you or I or anyone else who's a fan of the RFL or the College Series has seen that would say UNC could go and beat Miami. What is it about UNC's offense that you think scares Miami's defense? Because I don't think there's anything. I watch Miami's offense and I see a team that struggles to find an identity. I see a team that doesn't really have a go-to receiver. They don't have the running game to not have a go-to receiver or two, and they don't have a quarterback that consistently makes good throws. What are we saying here? All right, let's get to some of these in the chat. I know there's a bunch. I know a bunch of you guys are going off in the chat here, and I missed some of it. In a few weeks, UNC versus Miami, that clears it all up. Yes. What do we got? Skip Bayless. Calling me Skip Bayless. A third string quarterback in the RFL is calling me Skip Bayless. All right, let's see. Baylor will tell you that they don't scare Miami's defense. Who are we talking about? D'Lo, what are we talking about? What did I say? Did I not say UNC Miami? UNC and Miami are going to play each other, and the winner of that game is probably winning the ACC. Is there anyone that doesn't agree with that? It seems like 75% of the people in here are Miami fans, Miami players. Is there anyone that disagrees with Miami versus UNC is the win? I'm not even going to say leader in the clubhouse. I'll even take it a step further. Oh, I said Miami's offense. North Carolina's offense does not scare me if I am Miami's defense. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe I said that wrong. If you've watched Miami's defense, the defense can stop the best offenses. And it looks like if Miami's going to lose any number of games, if Miami's going to lose more than one more game this year, chances are it's because they beat themselves in some way, shape, or form. And it might not even have anything to do with the defense. The one thing that is a little bit tough, right? It's very easy to say in the RFL and in the college series, it's very easy for us to sit back and say the team beat themselves. And 90% of the time, we're talking about the offense. And that's clear to judge because you can look at interceptions, you can look at fumbles, you can look at terrible throws, you can look at terrible decisions in getting rid of the ball, you can look at sacks. You can look at those things on the offensive side of the ball and you can say, yeah, they gave this game away. They did this to themselves. And you'd be talking about the offense more often than not, almost 95% of the time. It's very rare that you say the defense gave this game away. Because if you were going to say the defense gave this game away, chances are you stopped saying that or thinking that before you were actually going to say it. And you turned around and said, wow, so-and-so's offense was just really good. Right? So more often than not, we say the offense gave the game away. We don't say the defense gave it away because we would just say the offense of the other team played really well. And in the college series and in Madden and certainly in RFL, the way that the game is played, we don't always have the ability and we don't always have the opportunity to see as much of the ins and outs and intricacies of the defense, right? Like a lot of times, if you're watching the game, you'll see on the broadcast, the camera angle is that of such where you can't see where the corner is playing at the bottom of your screen. You can't tell if he's playing press. You can't tell if he's playing off until after the ball is snapped, and probably only if at that point the ball is thrown in the direction of that corner. Right? So a lot of times we don't have that luxury. We don't see what is happening on the defensive side of the ball. And even in scenarios where we can see it, a lot of times we're not paying attention because we're too busy looking at what's going on the offense. Like, let's be honest. How many of you are staring intently on the defense every single time the ball is snapped? You're not. The ball is snapped and you're looking at what's the guy with the ball doing? And rightfully so, because that's where the camera is taking you to where the guy with the ball is going. Unfortunately, we don't get to see what the defense is doing all the time, unless the defense is balling out. And so that takes me back to the beginning of this whole thing. Miami's defense has been balling out. Miami's defense is fantastic. No, they're not the only fantastic defense in the league. I can make an argument. I still don't know if they're the best defense in the league. But if they're not, then they're like 1B. They're really good on defense. If they could shore up some of the offensive inconsistencies, I think Miami could easily contend for a national championship. I think as of right now, they have a really good chance of winning the ACC. And if they win the ACC, I don't envision a scenario where they're not in the Final Four, right? Like, let's look at Miami's schedule the rest of the way. We went over this with UNC, and I'm sorry for those of you that may not be a fan of the ACC, but maybe tune in next week as we talk about any other conference except the ACC. But if you look at I think this is where there is the most debate. This is where there's the most controversy, right? So I don't want you guys to think that I hate the SEC. I hate the Big Ten. I hate the Pac-12. I hate them. That's not what this is. This is simply about where do I think the most controversy is right now, and where do I think there's the most debate? And I think, for my money, there's a lot of debate in the ACC right now. I think in some of the other conferences, there's not as much debate. We can't sit there and have intellectual conversations back and forth with each other about what's going on and where certain teams might be or where they should be. I think the ACC has that. And I'm sure Miami fans, Clemson fans, Notre Dame fans, I'm sure you guys would agree. What's this we got from Amir Williams? What do you say? UNC has a good run game with Swan, but when your passing game can't work, you're most likely going to lose that game, regardless of the run game, unless your defense can get points. I know from experience. He's right. If you can't throw the ball, it's hard to win games, right? Like we see games in the college series where there's 40 points put up on the board. What you don't see in that 40-point explosion on offense are 5 rushing touchdowns. You don't see that. When a team puts up 6 touchdowns, there's a good majority of them that are passing or maybe on defense or special teams. Not really special teams because we don't see a lot of kick returns and punt returns, but certainly on defense. You don't see, I challenge anyone to go find a game in the college series or the RFL. Show me a game in the RFL or the college series where there was more than 4 touchdowns, let's say 5 touchdowns, and they were all rushing. Even 4. Show me a game where there were 4 touchdowns and they were all rushing. Like that doesn't happen. But it's not uncommon to see a quarterback throw 4 touchdowns and no rushing touchdowns. And so Amir Williams' point is well taken. If you can't throw the ball, and I'll pull it up again, because I don't want Amir to think that I'm just bad-mouthing and hating on him because I didn't agree with what he said earlier. You guys think I'm just because someone doesn't agree with your opinion doesn't make him a hater. But he brings up a good point. If you can't throw the ball, you're going to have a hard time winning games. Plain and simple. And right now, UNC is having a hard time winning games. I shouldn't say they're having a hard time winning games. They're winning games. But I guess they are having a hard time. They're not winning them handily. They're not blowing the doors off of anybody. I don't remember. I want to say, and someone could fact check this for me and stat check this. I want to say their biggest margin of victory was the Louisville game. What do we got? A good pass game can carry a bad run game. I know from experience you can't say it the other way around. Yeah. I mean, you could have a great running game, but if your pass game sucks, chances are you're throwing interceptions and turning the ball over and giving the other team good field position and not putting yourself in good position to win. Maybe if you have a great running game and your passing game sucks on any particular day, you can win a 13-10 game, right? You can get a touchdown, 2 field goals, and you can win a defensive struggle. We don't see that often in the college series. We might see it a little bit more frequently in the RFL, but it's even not that common in the RFL. This is the stuff that I kind of appreciate, because I'll tell you, some of you guys, man, some of you guys come on here and it's almost like everyone, it's almost like me against the world. Some of you guys come on and it's like me against the world, and you think everyone is after you and everyone is out to get you, and it's not the way that it is. Like I can sit here and I can tell you Miles Mccain ain't going to cut it. Right? But Miles McCain can ball out for 4 touchdowns next week, and I'll pull him on the show and be like, man, you must have been listening to the show. I'll come on the show next week with a UNC jersey. I'll call Miles McCain's mama and bring him on the show and be like, Mama, your boy look good. It's not you against the world. It's not everyone's a hater. If you don't like it, do something about it. If you don't like that I think that you stink on the field, then be better. If you want to hear, about the weather and rainbows and unicorns, then go follow your girlfriend's hot cousin on Instagram or TikTok. That's not what this is about. Oh, here's a good one. Come on, guys. You got to have hot takes like this. UNC this year is like Miami last year. Strong defense and a run game, but bad passing with a quarterback that generates a lot of turnovers, whether it's interceptions or fumbles. Now, this is Amir Williams just straight throwing shade at his quarterback last year, DJ White, who didn't perform that well. I mean, if I'm being fair, I'm not even going to throw him under the bus, I guess, for throwing shade at his quarterback, because he's right. He didn't play well at all. So sorry, guys, I'm getting a little choked up here as my throat is starting to catch up with me. So we only got about 15 minutes left in the show, 10, 15 minutes left. So I do want to get into this top 10. I know that I've been teasing it for a while, and I'm sure you guys are excited to see, for my money. Right. Again, this has nothing to do with the league. It has nothing to do with what you're going to see tomorrow on the RFL Live podcast. Okay. To Amir's point earlier and what he said, Smitty has already come out and said that the way that top 25 is put together is based on overall record and then conference record. I don't like that. That's the way that it's done. I know there are other people that also don't like the way that it's done. CC Akine. I don't know, man. That Maryland shirt was bad. Did anyone not get a chance to see when I was at the Baltimore airport this past weekend, and I was walking through the airport? Literally, no joke. Like, this literally happened. If you saw the video, I think I posted it. Where did I post it? RFL chat, maybe RFL community. If there's anyone in here that can go back and find that video, can find that and like repost it in the beginning, give some of these guys a chance. I don't think you can actually post it in the chat here, but if you can, please do. For those of you that didn't see it, I'm walking through the Baltimore airport, and I promise you we'll get to the top 10. I swear we will. I will not end the show without getting to the top 10. So I'm walking through the Baltimore airport, and you've heard me for the last month talk about how much I can't stand the Maryland uniforms. I can't stand the helmets. I can't stand the jerseys. I think even the pants have the Maryland state flag on them, and I think it's atrocious. Now, this has nothing to do with Smitty and nothing to do with how much he loves those uniforms. And just in general, I haven't liked them for years. I used to host a sports radio show. My co-host and I would talk about 2 teams in particular whose uniforms always struck us as just over the top. Maryland's was number one, far and away ridiculous. The state flag on your uniform just seems kind of lazy. It seems like you couldn't come up with anything to represent the school. Like, I don't know, maybe the mascot, maybe just the mascot. You couldn't come up with something creative. C. Beazle could have come up with a cool logo for the University of Maryland. They're sponsored by Under Armour, for crying out loud. C. Beazle could probably put together a better helmet than whatever Under Armour's giving them. So I'm not a big fan of the state flag. Really nothing to do with Maryland, although I do hate the Maryland state flag. So it is kind of something to do with Maryland. I just don't like the state flags going on the helmet. If the Florida Gators or the Florida State Seminoles want to put the Florida state flag on their helmet, I'm going to sit here and say, man, that looks so stupid. Why do they do that? And you're right, Kristen Williams. Maybe there's a story for why they use the flag. And please, if somebody could find out, somebody do the research. This is my task to you. I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment because I know you guys don't have enough homework assignments as it is right now. Your homework assignment between now and next Tuesday is to find out the lineage and the history of why Maryland uses their state flag for everything. They use it for everything. You can't go 5 minutes. You can't even cross the Maryland state border without seeing the flag. It's literally on the Enter Maryland sign, which I guess that's acceptable. But upon entering Maryland, you see the flag everywhere. There's like little signs on the side of the road that just have the state flag. That's it. No like car wash on the right. No, gas station 2 miles ahead. Just the sign on the side of the road with the state flag. It's on their license plates. It's on their football team's helmets. Like, come on. Show me another school that does that. Show me another state that does that. Homework assignment number 2, extra credit. Extra credit. Show me another school that puts their state flag on something. Do people actually agree with that? Like, show of hands. Like, give me a show of hands in the chat if you think that this statement is correct. Do you agree with Samurai Nation that Maryland, and I guess I would have to take him to task and be more specific. When you say one of the best, that's very broad and very vague. They could be, you could think they're one of the top 10. You could think they're one of the top 15. That could still qualify as one of the best if you're talking about 125 teams. D'Lo's skipping class. But Maryland uniform's not that good. I agree. Oh, did we find it? We found it. CC Akini, my man. All right, so guys, real quick, I'm going to do the top 10, but after the show, go in, or you can even go in right now. The video is not that long, but my boy CC Akini just posted it in the RFL chat. So it's right there, first thing in the RFL chat. The video of me in the Baltimore airport walking through, and what do I see? A gift shop. Normal standard fare walking through the airport, right? This gift shop was littered with state flag everything. And so I wonder if I can actually do this. I can do this. Let's see what this looks like if I try to pull it up. It was bad. It was not good. And I was mind blown. Let's see if I'm going to be able to do this. Can we do this up? No, it's not going to work. All right. So you can go to the RFL chat. Go with the RFL chat. Thank you, CC Akini, for posting that. And just watch that video. It's literally about a 30-second video of me walking into this gift shop. And all you see is Maryland state flag, everything. They had literally a pair of pants that were like the 1980s Zubaz pants For those of you that were around back then, for those of you that remember what they look like, they might even be coming back in style, for crying out loud. They were like those tie-dye, zigzag, all over the place pants. And it's literally the state flag just all over the place. Texas Tech has a pride uniform that does it. Okay, that does what? That puts the state flag on the helmet. Is the state flag on the helmet, or is the state flag on the jersey? Because I haven't seen that one. I think I've seen the Texas Tech, like when they do the Red Raider looking helmet, and I've seen obviously the TT helmet. I haven't seen, like you're saying, a pride, like a Texas pride, like a state pride, not like a rainbow pride, I assume. But yeah, I don't doubt it. I guess I could see some other states having novelty, and Texas makes sense. Texas is one of those states where I could certainly see them having an alternate helmet, an alternate uniform where they have the state flag on their helmet, or maybe the state flag on their jersey. I think that's a little bit more common practice. That's a little bit more normal. Amir Williams, there's a lot of nice unis and helmets, kind of biased, but Georgia State with their all blue, all black with their helmets is nice. I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I think before now and the end of the college series, I'm going to try to put together a show where I just go out, and maybe this is something you guys can help me with. If you guys want, find me on the Discord. Between now and the end of the season, I'm going to put together a hot list of uniforms. And so if you guys want to be a part of that and you guys want to contribute to that, I'll do a whole Miners Live probably towards the end of the college series and like culminating this big uniform controversy and uniform conversation that has been going on throughout the season. Everybody knows that I'm probably the number one person when it comes to looking at uniforms. I think some of the color rush uniforms that we've seen have been awesome in the college series. I think, what game was it? We watched 2 weeks ago, Georgia and someone, and I forget who it was. I thought those were two of the coolest looking uniforms I've seen on the field at the same time ever. It was awesome. So I want to put together a show going over some uniforms, and it's not, let's just not do it college series specific. Let's do it let's talk nationwide, right? So you want to talk about Georgia State, bring Georgia State. So go and find me those uniforms, whether you go on Google and find a Google image, whether you find just a picture of the team playing on the field, something, find that picture, send me that picture on Discord. You can find me on Discord at Chris Dunn, KRS Dunn, I believe it is, on Discord. You should be able to find me pretty easily if you just take 2 seconds and try. Send me that picture or send me the link. And between now and the end of the season, I'll put that show together. And anybody that wants to be a part of that show, you want to be a guest on that show, send me a message on the Discord and let me know, and I'll bring you on. You can be a guest on that show, and we will talk about what uniform you submitted and why you think that's the best uniform. Anybody that wants to come on, we can do it. Yes, 100% agree with Samurai Nation. The Miami All Blacks is pretty baller. I assume he means cold as in baller. And yes, I'm old. And when I was your age, we used to say it was hot. Now you're saying it's cold. So I assume that you like those uniforms, because otherwise you and I just don't agree on any uniforms. The Miami All Blacks are awesome. They are awesome. But again, let's submit this to the Discord. Everyone, fair game, open forum. Send me whatever links, whatever images you have, and we'll put together a show. You guys want to come on the show? I'll get you on the show. Everyone has an opportunity to come on and talk about what team they think has the nicest uniforms. Now, all of that being said, we've got to get there. I'm going to end up running over anyway, and I'm sick. I don't feel good, but you guys got me going. And so I'm here for you. Whether you like what I have to say or not, I'm always here for you. I appreciate all of you guys, whether you're throwing shade at me because you think I'm a hater. I don't care. What I appreciate more than anything is that you come back each and every week and you watch the show, you listen, and whether you agree with me or not, it doesn't matter. We're all here for one simple purpose, and that's because we love the RFL. We love the college series. We love what Smitty has put together, regardless of whether or not he's going to be taking some time away because he has some personal stuff that he's dealing with and he's attending to, and good for him. You know, special shout out to him for doing what he's doing. Unfortunately, that might take him away from the league for a little bit, and that is very unfortunate. So it's on guys like me to help pick up that slack. And so I truly do appreciate you guys coming and listening to the show, having feedback for the show, questions, comments, issues, whatever. Love it all. I do. Don't think that you're ever going to say something in this chat that I'm going to get super offended by. Unless you tell me that my dog's not cute, which is just a lie because my dog is adorable. Okay. They could take a picture of my dog and put it on the Maryland helmet and it would look better than those. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm done. All right. Top 10. We are going to go into the top 10, my top 10, right? This is not the top 10 for what you're going to see tomorrow. Sorry, as I'm like trying to put this up as I'm doing it, but top 10 rankings right now for me and what I believe has nothing to do with overall record, conference record versus number of games played in conference, out of conference, any of that. That's what you're going to see tomorrow. That's the official. That is the by the book. That's what you're going to see throughout the league as the official top 10 rankings. I'm going to give you my own Miners Live, Chris Dunn, whatever you want to call them, power rankings for the teams that I think are the top 10 teams in the country based on having watched them, how their players have performed. These are the teams that I feel are the top 10 teams in the country. All right. Number 10, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'm going to get rid of this banner now so you can see it. Number 10, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Okay, again, this goes back to everything I said about Miami can't jump UNC if UNC was 3 and they beat 2. Last time I did this top 10, I didn't do it last week because, again, I was out, wasn't feeling well. But coming into this week, you're looking at a Notre Dame team that was, in the eyes of the committee, they were the 11th best team in the country. They went against a Louisville team that was number 9 in the country, and they waxed them, right? They absolutely waxed. Tilo. Hold on. Okay. All right. Is there a mute button in here? Okay. Anyway, Notre Dame in at number 10. I think the way that they humiliated Louisville this past weekend is a testament to their resilience. I think they've looked bad on several occasions, but again, this college series has shown one thing, that's there's a lot of bad teams. There's a lot of really, really bad teams in the 20 to 32 area, right? There's a lot of teams that are just not that good. So Notre Dame, despite their struggles on a week in and week out basis, comes in at number 10, really because of what they were able to do this past week against Louisville, who was pretty good. They did get the win against Florida State, so they've got that conference win. They beat Louisville. They've got that conference win. They're 2-0 in conference, right? No, 3-0 in conference, right? They beat Clemson. No, they lost to Clemson. That's right. So again, that just goes to my point. Like, they're kind of up and down. I don't trust Notre Dame, but looking at all the other teams and how well Notre Dame performed last week, I'm putting Notre Dame in at number 10. In at number 9, Alabama Crimson Tide. Look, you saw them lose this past week to Georgia. Yes, they did lose. Miami beat Notre Dame too. That's right. So again, Notre Dame seems like has a pretty difficult schedule. They've lost to Notre Dame's got 4 conference games already. They lost to Miami. They lost to Clemson. They beat Florida State. And they beat Louisville. That's tough when all of your conference games are that early. But Notre Dame in at 10, enough about them. Alabama Crimson Tide in at number 9. Look, tough loss against Georgia. They entered at as the number 6 ranked team in the country, according to the front office. They lost to Georgia, who was number 7. Really, the only reason Georgia was number 7 was because they had just recently lost. I think many people still feel like Georgia could be the best team in the country, certainly one of the top 3 teams in the country. So for Alabama to lose to them, I'm not going to punish Alabama all that much. So Alabama in at number 9, still in the top 10 for me. In at number 8, not really moving very far, not really doing much of anything, just kind of hanging around are the Baylor Bears. Again, I think 2 weeks ago when I did my top 10, I said this exact statement. I don't know that we're ever going to see the Baylor Bears enter the top 5 at any point during the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if they never got outside the top 12, right? I think they are a team that could literally be in this 6 to 10, 6 to 11 range the entire season. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they get a big win late in the season. It remains to be seen what they're going to do as the season progresses. But again, right now for me, Baylor in at number 8. In at number 7, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Yes, they were the number 2 team in the country, according to the front office. They lost to the number 3 team in the country. That's going to drop them. I've got them in at number 7. I think South Carolina was being put in the number 2 spot simply based on record, simply based on who they beat, and less about anything else. I think we're going to see South Carolina start to come back down to earth throughout the course of the next couple weeks. And for my money, I just can't keep them. I don't know that they deserved to be number 2. We all had them at number 2, but I don't know that we really thought that they were the number 2 team in the country. So I just can't put South Carolina that much higher right now. Again, not based on anything that they've done, but just when I look at the teams that I have ahead of them, I don't know that any of you are going to disagree with all of those teams being better than them, right? And so let's just start and get right into it. And at number 6, here we go. Here's the spoiler. Here's the shocker. North Carolina at number 6. I just don't think that this North Carolina team is, quite frankly, better than any of the teams that I have listed in the top 5. And you can probably start to get a feel for who I have in the top 5 based on what you've seen so far on 10 through 6 and what the teams are that are remaining. I just don't see them as that team. Again, I feel like they should be, based off the committee, they should be number 2 in the country, but it's not going to work out that way because, as we talked about earlier, the way that the structure is, Miami's probably going to be the number 2 team in the country based on the format. Again, based on the format. UNC to me is the number 6 team in the country. I can't put them any higher than that. I certainly cannot put them ahead of number 5, West Virginia. This West Virginia team looks really good. This West Virginia team fought hard at home and lost a nail biter against Miami. That was a tough game. For those of you that watched the game, it seemed like whoever had the ball last was going to win the game. West Virginia had the ball last. But again, I preached this earlier on the show. Miami's defense is really good. Miami's defense made a play. West Virginia lost the game. I've got West Virginia in at number 5 right now. And I don't even want to get into the absolute shellacking that they put on Washington this past weekend, who looked like they are making a case for the worst team in the college series. You can talk about Arizona State. You can talk about Wisconsin all you want. You can talk about Auburn all you want. This Washington team looks like a junior varsity high school program. They certainly looked like that against West Virginia this past weekend. In at number 4, the Georgia Bulldogs. All right. This is a team that has lost 1 game over the last year and a half. They're going to be there. They're going to have every opportunity to get back to the Final Four. They're going to have every opportunity to get back to the national championship. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. If there's anyone that disagrees with Georgia being a Final Four contender, say so in the chat. I'm curious. I'm not gonna blast you. I'm just genuinely curious why you think that they're not a Final Four contender. Is it because you don't think that they're that good, or is it because you think that there are other teams that are better that could catch them? Is it because you don't trust the run game? You don't trust the pass game? What is it about Georgia that you feel they're not a Final Four contender or a national champion contender? I'd be curious. Again, guys, these are all questions that I'm genuinely curious and would love your input and your answers to. And please, I feel like I say this every week, but not a lot of guys actually reach out. Find me on Discord. Pose questions to me. Be engaging. Be interactive. I want you to be interactive. I'll take all of that interaction, make it a part of the show. Things that you are afraid to say on the show, but you want to say to me offline in a direct chat, say it. And then I can bring it up on air unknown. I don't have to, if you want to say something about Georgia, but you're just kind of, you don't want to say it because you don't want to sound like that guy, fine. Hit me up on Discord in a DM. We can have a conversation, and then I'll take your thoughts. I'll take your opinions, and I will express them and voice them on the show. And you'll remain anonymous. I'm not going to put anyone on blast. If you've got some thoughts and opinions about any of these teams and you want them to be heard, but you don't want to come and say it in a chat or say it on Miners Live or say it in part of the RFL Live podcast because you don't want a bunch of people getting defensive and making fun of you and saying a bunch of stuff, whatever, in the comments section or, whatever, hit me up on Discord. That's the kind of stuff I enjoy. I love that stuff. But for me, Georgia, number 4 team in the country, I don't know that there's a lot of debate that they're a top 5 team. I think if anything, maybe Georgia Bulldog fans could make an argument, why aren't they better? Well, the reason why they're not better is because this Miami team is really good, guys. This Miami team is really, really good. They're good. If they could figure out a way to be a little bit more consistent on offense, just a little bit more consistent, both in the run game and in the pass game, and not rely on their defense to prevent the other team from scoring or cause a second half late game turnover to steal victory or, turn the field position and give them a chance to win on a last second field goal. If they could be more consistent offensively on a, drive by drive, possession by possession, quarter by quarter, week by week basis, this team could go up way sooner than they could go down. Right now, I've got them at the number 3 team in the country. And really it's because there's 2 teams, all 3 of these 3 teams are difficult. One of them you can't really argue based on what we've seen. And the other one has shown flashes of just destroying you. And then unfortunately wasn't able to keep it going one particular week. So I say all that. Miami's the number 3 team in the country for me. In at number 2, I've got Ohio State. You can say what you want. Yes, Ohio State, according to the front office, was the number 10 team in the country last week. They were the number 10 team in the country. But let's not forget, they were the number 1 team in the country, and they were making dudes look silly. They were making everyone they faced look silly. And they went up against USC on the road at USC, one of the hardest places to play, and they lost when USC was the number 4 team in the country. And then Ohio State went into a bye week, dropped down in the rankings because they were on a bye week through no fault of their own. Just happens to be where the schedule put them in the bye week. And then they go out and they absolutely dismantled Iowa. And we thought Iowa was pretty good. Many of us thought Iowa could be one of those sleeper, low user submitted prospect type teams. Not a lot of user submits, but a really good team, kind of like Florida State was. And Florida State still is by many accounts. Look, they lost to USC. That's a tough loss. And they got another conference loss. But Ohio State, for me, number 2 team in the country. I can't fault them that much for that loss to USC. And so all that being said, who is Ohio State number 2 behind? USC. USC Trojans, you can't really argue it. They haven't lost a game. They're the only team so far that hasn't lost a game. And no, I don't think they are last year's Georgia Bulldogs. Not even close. Not even a little. Not even a smidge. But right now, they're the number 1 team in the country. And again, I don't know that you can really debate it. You want to debate Miami should be 2 and Ohio State should be 3. Okay, debate it. Let's do it. You want to debate Baylor should be 6 and North Carolina should be 7 or 8? Okay, fine. Let's do it. But I don't think that you can debate USC as the number 1 team in the country right now. They haven't lost a game, right? In the words of the great Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. And right now, USC is winning every single game. Not practice. They're not winning practice. They're winning the game. And right now, they're the number 1 team in the country. Thoughts? What do you got? Notre Dame in at number 10, Alabama in at number 9, Baylor in at 8, South Carolina 7, North Carolina 6, West Virginia 5, Georgia 4, Miami 3, Ohio State 2, University of Southern California Fighting Trojans are the number 1 team in the country. What do you guys think? I see D'Lo here says they should be number 12. I don't know who D'Lo was talking about. I'd have to go back and see what some of those other comments were. Still waiting on a running back to run for 100 yards on Baylor. There's a lot of debate. There's a lot up for discussion. Again, guys, I really do appreciate it. I'm shocked. Here I am a week after taking a week off because I was traveling and had so much going on. Now this week I'm sick. You can probably tell. I have a sore throat. I'm holding back coughing the entire time that I'm on the air with you. And if you look at the timer right now, we've officially gone over, I believe, the longest show so far this year. I try to keep these shows at 1 hour. That's what I've always done. When I was hosting a sports show, you have a set amount of time and you keep your show to that set amount of time. That being said, you guys are always really good in the chat. You guys are always super supportive. You're always engaging. You're always active, interactive with each other. And I don't want to put a time limit on that. So I hope you guys appreciate the show. I hope you guys appreciate when I say it's an hour show, but we go an hour and 12 minutes. We go an hour and 15 minutes. We just hit the hour and 20 mark. And more than anything, I wouldn't be doing this. I like to keep these shows at an hour because no matter what, the entire time that this show is on, it's going to be engaging and it's going to be entertaining. I don't care whether you like what I have to say or you think what I have to say is pure gold. What I have to say is going to be entertaining to you in some way, shape, or form. That's what the show is about. That's what I bring to the RFL. That's why I'm part of this league. That's why I, after being a coach for 1 year and being out of the sports broadcasting world for about 2 years professionally, said, I want to do this. This is a league that I could do this for, and this would be fun. I spent a year watching Smitty and Bill and Rob and was like, you know what? I could do this easily. I did it for years, and now I get to do it with this league, with you guys. And I'll tell you one thing, you guys are significantly more active, significantly more engaged, significantly more entertaining than any of the callers or any of the listeners that I ever had when I was in sports radio. When I interned at ESPN Radio in Hartford, Connecticut, nobody that called into the show, no one that listened to the show was as, this is real life stuff. This is real life. No one was as engaging. No one was as interested, entertaining, interactive as you guys are. And so that's a credit to you guys. And I appreciate that. This is me taking a couple moments to appreciate you guys for everything that you bring to the college series, everything you bring to the RFL, everything that you bring to Miners Live, the Sacramento Miners, me, myself personally, despite the fact that D'Lo thinks my dog isn't cute, which is a lie, and you know it. If you watched the show 2 weeks ago, you saw my dog, and he's adorable, okay? But absolutely, thank you to you guys. Andre Campbell, thank you, Coach, for what y'all do for us. You're welcome, man. You're welcome. I do this because it's engaging, it's fun, it's interactive. I think you guys enjoy it. I think you appreciate it. I know I do. But all that being said, guys, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. Again, you saw the top 5. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. I'll have that top 10 again for you next week based on this coming week's scores and you know how things play out this week. Make sure you tune into RFL Live tomorrow night for the official front office top 25. Again, that's the top 25 that counts. My top 10 here is simply based on who I think the best teams are in the country. Has nothing to do with conference record, nothing to do with anything else other than who's playing well on the field, who's getting wins on the field, and who looks dominant on the field. Miners Live is about style points, right? Why do you think there's so many Miami players and Miami fans in the chat every single week? Because Miners Live is about style points. You want to be the number one, number 2, number 3 team on the Miners Live top 10, on the Chris Dunn top 10? Style points win. This is college. Win big. 52-10. That's what I want. If you win 52-10 and the other guy wins 7-4, 7-6, you're moving up very quickly. All right. I want to see style points. I love the interaction. I know there's so many Miami guys out here, and I love it, especially being a Florida guy myself. So it's nice to see a lot of the Florida boys in the chat. So that's going to do it, guys. Be sure, please. We're at 60 subscribers right now on the YouTube channel. So please be sure to follow the Miners Live, Sacramento Miners, Chris Dunn on YouTube, at Miners RFL on Twitter, at Miners RFL on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, hit me up on Discord. You can leave comments on YouTube. You want to be a part of the show, let me know. I can get you on the show. That's right, D'Lo. 53-6, baby. 53-6. Put a whooping on Washington, who might be the worst team in the college series. They might be the worst team in the college series. That's going to do it, everybody. I appreciate the time. Thanks again for tuning into Miners Live. Again, don't forget to tune into the RFL Live podcast tomorrow, as there will be a top 25 announcement as well as a preview of the upcoming week's schedule. For all of you in the chats, I appreciate it. Until next time, this is your host, Chris Dunn, head coach of the Sacramento Miners. Thank you for being here for another episode of Miners Live. Take care, everybody.